Meet Dr. Bernardo A. Houssay, celebrated here as the architect of Latin American science. This blueprint-style presentation honors the visionary Argentine physician who fundamentally transformed our understanding of endocrine feedback loops. By mapping the intricate connections between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, Houssay pioneered the study of physiological counterregulation. This groundbreaking work on homeostatic growth hormone pathways earned him the 1947 Nobel Prize, making him the first Latin American Nobel laureate in the sciences. Beyond his monumental laboratory discoveries, Houssay serves as the foundational builder of Argentina's modern scientific infrastructure, cementing an enduring legacy that seamlessly bridges complex biological mechanisms and national scientific advancement. Welcome to An Ascendant Trajectory, a visual timeline tracking the early, meteoric rise of Dr. Bernardo A. Houssay. Born in 1887 to French immigrants in Buenos Aires, Houssay was raised on classical values. A true prodigy, he graduated high school at just 13 years old, needing special waivers for his youth. By age 17, he was valedictorian of the University of Buenos Aires School of Pharmacy. At just 23, he earned his medical doctorate with honors, winning top faculty awards for his thesis on pituitary extracts. Fueling this climb was an engine of discipline. Houssay self-financed his studies by working in hospital dispensaries, instilling an austere, rigorous lifestyle he maintained for the rest of his life. This slide, titled The Epiphany and the Partnership, details two foundational pillars of Houssay's career. On the left, the clinical spark, 1908, reveals his breakthrough moment, encountering a patient with acromegaly, a pituitary tumor disorder causing skeletal changes. This sparked a lifelong obsession, leading Houssay to self-teach complex tissue excision surgeries inspired by Claude Bernard to analyze endocrine tissue. On the right, the domestic laboratory, 1920. Highlights his crucial marriage to Dr. Maria Angelica Caton, a doctor of chemistry. Caton became an indispensable, unpretentious collaborator. At their Viamonte 2790 home, she meticulously indexed and classified scientific literature, managing a vast archival system. Her vital support allowed Houssay to abandon a lucrative clinical practice and dedicate himself completely to full-time scientific research. Welcome to The Diabetes Paradigm Shift, a comparison of how Dr. Houssay revolutionized endocrinology. On the left, we see the pre-1930s insulinocentric era. Its core belief was that diabetes stems solely from a lack of pancreatic insulin production, a one-way, single-organ failure model of the islets of Langerhans, treating carbohydrate metabolism as if governed by a single master switch. On the right, Houssay's counter-regulatory hypothesis challenges this narrow view. He proposed that carbohydrate metabolism is governed by a dynamic, balanced system of counter-regulatory endocrine organs. This multi-organ feedback loop pits the pancreas against the anterior pituitary, introducing a revolutionary clinical view. Homeostasis is not a single switch, but a constant, complex biochemical tug-of-war. This slide illustrates the pituitary-pancreatic axis, demonstrating how blood glucose G is maintained as a steady state between production and utilization, modeled by the equation dG over dt equals P minus U. A balance scale visualizes this homeostatic tug-of-war. The pancreas releases insulin to lower glucose, while the anterior pituitary releases somatotropin and ACTH to raise it. Houssay proved this mechanism through critical experiments between 1924 and 1937, hypophysectomy. Removing the anterior pituitary left normal animals hypersensitive to insulin, causing fatal hypoglycemia. Dual removal, removing both organs relieves severe diabetic symptoms, restoring near-normal glucose and reducing ketonuria. The diabetogenic effect, injecting anterior pituitary extracts into normal animals artificially induced diabetes by overwhelming insulin's effects. This slide explores clinical translation, the Houssay phenomenon. This eponymous medical term defines a clinical occurrence where a patient with long-standing diabetes suddenly experiences an unexpected drop in blood glucose and a dramatically reduced need for insulin. A diagnostic flowchart shows the clinical shift. When a diabetic patient exhibits recurrent, spontaneous hypoglycemia, the old paradigm dismissed it as an unexplained improvement or an insulin overdose. By contrast, Houssay's diagnosis correctly identifies it as anterior pituitary failure, such as Sheehan syndrome. Without counter-regulatory hormones, insulin operates unopposed. Beyond diabetes, Houssay's foundational mapping of hormone feedback loops paved the way for treating adrenal insufficiency with cortisol injections, famously saving the life of future U.S. President John F. Kennedy in 1947. This slide commemorates the 1947 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, a crowning achievement in Dr. Houssay's career. He shared this prestigious honor with Carl F. and Gerty T. Corey, who were recognized for mapping glycogen metabolism. The monumental significance of this prize lies in Houssay becoming the very first Latin American to receive a Nobel Prize in the sciences. An excerpt from his Nobel lecture on December 12, 1947, captures his core scientific philosophy. In it, Houssay reflects on how glucose production and consumption are governed by a functional endocrine equilibrium. He explains his early attraction to studying the hypophysis, noting that its microscopic glandular activity was accompanied by serious organic disturbances. This slide, titled Science versus the State, Disruption of Homeostasis, outlines a turbulent political timeline testing Dr. Houssay's scientific integrity. Following a June 1943 military coup, Houssay signed a public manifesto demanding effective democracy. In response, the military dictatorship stripped him and 150 educators of their university posts. Though a 1945 amnesty briefly reinstated him at the University of Buenos Aires, the populist Perón administration systematically purged the university intelligentsia in 1946, resulting in Houssay's permanent dismissal. When the state-controlled press later mocked his 1947 Nobel Prize as a politically motivated act, Houssay delivered a legendary retort, declaring that one must not confuse small things, politicians, with big things, the Nobel. This slide, titled Building a Refuge, IBYME, 1944, illustrates Dr. Houssay's resilience in the face of political exile. Rejecting lucrative international offers to remain in Argentina, Houssay bypassed state-controlled institutions by seeking private funding. On March 14, 1944, with financial backing from the Sovereign Foundation, he co-founded the Instituto de Biologia y Medicina Experimental, IBYME. Operating entirely outside the state university system, IBYME served as an academic sanctuary. It successfully kept the thread of Argentine biomedical research, and Houssay's elite team, alive, independent, and highly productive through a turbulent decade of political interference. This slide, titled The Academic Lineage, charts the profound multi-generational impact of Dr. Bernardo A. Houssay through the elite scientists he mentored at the Institute of Physiology and IBYME. First, biochemist Luis Federico Leloir, mentored by Houssay starting in 1933, discovered sugar nucleotides and won the 1970 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Second, physiologist Eduardo Braun Menendez completed his 1934 thesis under Houssay and went on to lead the team that discovered hypertensin, angiotensin. Finally, neurophysiologist Miguel Rolando Covian exported Houssay's rigorous experimental methods to Brazil, ultimately becoming recognized as the father of Brazilian neurophysiology at the University of São Paulo, illustrating how Houssay's institutional blueprint elevated South American science as a whole. This slide presents a case study, the discovery of angiotensin, mapping a landmark medical breakthrough directed by Dr. Houssay. Guided by Houssay's prediction of a humoral mechanism for hypertension, Eduardo Braun Menendez and the Houssay group investigated ischemic kidneys as the catalyst. Their 1939 breakthrough proved that these kidneys release an enzyme, renin, which reacts with a plasma substrate to create a potent vasoconstrictor they named hypertensin. Following a parallel discovery of angiotonin by U.S. researcher Irving H. Page, a 1958 synthesis formally merged the terms into angiotensin. This pivotal research established the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, RAAS, creating the global impact of becoming the foundational target for all modern hypertension and cardiovascular pharmaceuticals. This slide, titled Restoring National Homeostasis, CONICET, documents Dr. Houssay's ultimate triumph in stabilizing Argentine science. Following the 1955 revolution, the reinstatement saw Houssay return to his chair at the University of Buenos Aires. However, he faced the problem, a severe brain drain siphoning highly trained Argentine scientists and technical personnel to the US and Europe due to a lack of stable domestic support. To combat this, Houssay enacted the Solution, 1958. He conceived, founded, and served as the first president of the National Scientific and Technical Research Council, CONICET. His mission was vital: ensure that rigorous, world-class scientific inquiry could be sustained domestically, permanently insulated from political volatility. This slide, titled The Policy Architecture, outlines the three strategic pillars Dr. Houssay utilized to professionalize Argentine science. Pillar 1, Dedication Exclusiva replaced part-time hobbyist science with full-time, state-salaried research careers, effectively institutionalizing the role of the professional scientist. Pillar 2, Merit-based fellowships instituted rigorous, competitive funding and advanced equipment grants, which successfully retained top domestic talent and funded vital doctoral training. Pillar 3, Diversification of science aggressively expanded state funding far beyond biomedicine. This culminated in a landmark 1962 partnership with the Carnegie Institution to install the first 30-meter radio telescope in the Southern Hemisphere, birthing the Argentine Institute of Radio Astronomy. Let us look at Dr. Houssay's monumental legacy through the lens of pure data in A Lifetime in Numbers. Over a storied career, he published more than 500 original scientific papers globally, establishing an immense foundation for modern endocrinology. His profound international impact earned him 29 honorary doctorates from elite world institutions, including Harvard, Oxford, Paris, and Cambridge, alongside 55 memberships in prestigious international scientific academies. Finally, his lifetime of influence culminated in a single, landmark 1950 textbook, Human Physiology. Translated into English, French, Portuguese, and Italian, this definitive work effectively standardized medical education across all of Latin America, forever cementing his role as a global educator. We conclude our journey with The Metaphorical Blueprint, reflecting on the profound symbolism of Dr. Houssay's life work. This slide weaves together three central concepts: biological homeostasis, the intricate endocrine feedback loop that balances our internal survival; academic resilience, the creation of private sanctuaries like IBYME to survive state disruption; and institutional homeostasis, the ultimate establishment of CONICET to protect national scientific progress. Just as a master architect balances forces to keep a physical structure standing, Dr. Houssay successfully maintained the delicate equilibrium of science in Latin America. His enduring legacy proves that true scientific advancement requires both the precision of laboratory breakthroughs and an unyielding commitment to building a permanent, independent infrastructure to support generations to come.